You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Friday. It is indeed the Friday. It is the day of days. It's the day before the weekend. We're going to get you all the way to go home time, and we got a sound effect for that one, so hit it, man. Friday! Yes, it is. It is. It is Friday. Congratulations. And that, by the way, is JP pushing the buttons quite ably on the board. Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you today?
It's Friday.
It is Friday. It's a jam-packed Friday.
And somebody said something about naming it. What did we hear a while ago? It should be Fudge Friday.
Fudge Friday.
That's right. I do happen to know, yes. So Granny Ram, grandmother, came to town today and brought fudge.
Oh, yes.
So now it's Fudge Friday, at least for today.
I know. I got that waiting on me for home.
I think you are going to have to work out a sound effect for Thankful Thursday.
Yes, and that will be on deck ASAP.
We got a great show laid on for you. Crazy cool, great show. So coming up here in just a little while, assuming all things stay the way they're supposed to, actor Kirk Cameron will be here in studio with us for a bit. He's actually in town tonight. Got an event, part of his Faith and Family tour, and he is passing through. And so, yes, Kirk Cameron is scheduled to be in studio with us here at Rightside at 2:30. And then at 3 o'clock, and maybe even a tad before that, 3 o'clock, John Wall, the chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, is going to be here in studio with us again. So it's going to be, the studio's hopping today. We got all the doings going on. But yeah, John Wall in studio at 3 o'clock. And then 3:30, I'm assuming everything stays on track. Train keeps running. That'd be JP on sports, because JP's the savant on sports, and he's got, oh, by the way, his own special sound effect for that one, which I still think is cool. I've never had anybody give me a special sound effect.
It is pretty awesome, I'll say.
It is pretty awesome. All right, all that plus a triple dipper, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, the soul of America. Yeah, in conjunction with our conversation with Kirk Cameron, the soul of America is, and I don't use that euphemistically or I think the soul of America has been given an opportunity for a reset, like a reboot. Like suddenly it's okay, it's cool, and oh, by the way, you're free to be patriotic. You're free to express your faith. You're free to express your conservative values. You know why? Because we won. But we also have to keep it. And so I'm going to talk about the soul of America, and that is number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, I didn't get to it yesterday, so assuming all things go the way they're supposed to today, will the DOE die? That's the Department of Education. Will the DOE die? Well, right now, we've got an executive order heading it in that direction. How far can it go? I don't know. We're going to find out. But will the DOE die? New Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, her charge has been to her people at the Department of Education, prepare for your final mission. Wow. All right, then number 3, the Democrat Party demise. I don't know if you've been watching this, but the Democrat Party is imploding, and it's mostly by self-immolation. I mean, there is a self-flagellation going on. The Democrats are continually beating themselves up. And, you know, when your enemy's kicking its own tail, you just don't get in the way. But the Democrats right now, are they on the ropes, really? There's some new things that are happening that are very real, and I'm going to talk about that as number 3 on the Triple Dipper, the Democrat Party demise. All right, well, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys that every single day, the Rightside Way monologue brought to you by attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, a partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, and he is our daily sponsor. I know him personally, and I'll tell you more about him here in just a few minutes. All right, listen, if you've been listening to this show like for more than a day, you already know that I am unabashedly patriotic. I believe in standing for the flag, rallying to the cause, supporting the Constitution, speaking my mind, all of which are not unknown in other places, but they are absolute rights in America. They are. I mean, think about it. What other country in the world not only allows freedom, but actually enshrines it as the basis for who we are as a nation, as a people. And I believe that the left can't stand America as it really is. The progressive left is constantly and overtly decrying anything that shares the values, traditions, and freedoms of America as an absolute. We're a nation of rough and ready, a nation of faith, and largely Christian faith at that. A nation that smirks at tyrants and faces down the bullies. But the left has done all it can over the last decade, and especially the last 4 years, to actually tear away the fabric of America and just leave the bones. I mean, the left will kneel at the anthem, burn the flag, degrade military readiness, steal our tax dollars, downgrade families, and mock our faith. But I believe that we are seeing the soul of America on the rise again. There is, in my opinion, a revival of Christianity, a restoration of values, a resurgence of patriotism. And you can feel it, right? I mean, it's almost palpable. It's almost to the point you can touch it. So today, I'm going to push the outer limits and suggest that nobody should ever underestimate the American people. Because the American spirit is a thing. It's real. And I'm going to talk about it today. And to do that, I'm going to use a modern day movie classic. Now, I've talked about this movie before, but it is so good and so on point, I can't not bring it up again because it's perfect for what I'm about to say. The movie, if you haven't seen it, you're going to have to now. The movie is Ford versus Ferrari. Now, I'm a car guy, but you don't have to love cars to love this movie because it wasn't about cars. It was about American ingenuity and American spirit and grit and the idea that you can call us whatever you want, but don't ever call us down. So the storyline in the movie was set in the early 60s, and it was all true. In 1963, Ford Motor Company was about to change the world by introducing the Mustang. But Ford Vice President Lee Iacocca, he felt like there was something missing, something flashy and fast that could win races and garner a worldwide following. So Iacocca convinced Ford President Henry Ford II that they should buy out the Italian automaker Ferrari. Ferrari had been dominating the Le Mans racing circuit with hand-built streamlined classics, and Henry Ford liked the idea, and he sent Iacocca over to Italy, where Enzo Ferrari sat sipping tea in the far end of his coachworks. Iacocca made the pitch, and Ferrari let him sit and sweat for hours. All the while, though, it turned out, Ferrari was just using Ford to get leverage with Fiat to buy him out for more money. It was a dirty trick, y'all. It was a bait and switch. But as if that were not enough, Ferrari decided he had to insult America's premier automaker directly. So once he realized he had Fiat money in his hands, he told them in a condescending tone, "You go back to Michigan. You go back to your big ugly factory, making its ugly little cars. And you tell your pig-headed boss that all his smug executives are worthless sons of whores, and you tell him he's not Henry Ford." Wow. In one fell swoop, that arrogant Italian, whose country we had just liberated from fascism 20 years before that, insulted American manufacturing capability, American style, and really American legacies. And he really insulted all of America in the process. Oh, he shouldn't ought to have done that. Because when Ford heard about it, he decided it wasn't the first time the U.S. went to war in Europe. He told Iacocca, "We're going to bury Ferrari at Le Mans." So Iacocca got the green light to build the world's fastest, most enduring race car from scratch. But to do that, he had to have a team. So Iacocca went out and hired none other than Carroll Shelby, a legendary car builder and a racer who at 22 years old had been a pilot of a B-29 Superfortress flying combat missions in World War II. And Shelby hired a guy named Ken Miles, a man who could drive like his hair was on fire, who could feel the road and smell the next gear. And Shelby was asked to come to the debut of the new Ford Mustang, and he gave a short speech. And wearing his signature cowboy hat and talking in his Texas drawl, Shelby took the stage that day, and he told the world how it was going to be. I'm going to quote his speech. Here's what he said. He said, "If my daddy was here today, he'd tell me to sit on down and leave the yakking to the college boys. So like my cars, I'll make this fast. When I was 10 years old, my pop said to me, 'Son, it's a truly lucky man who knows what he wants to do in this world, because that man will never work a day in his life. But there are a few,' he said, 'a precious few. And hell, I don't know if they're lucky or not, but there are a few who find something that they just have to do. Something that obsesses them. Something that if they can't do it, it's going to drive them clean out of their mind, and I'm that guy. And I know one other man,' he said, 'who feels exactly the same. His name is Henry Ford. And together we're going to build the fastest automobile in the world, and we're going to make history too, at Le Mans. My name is Carroll Shelby. I build race cars.' And brother, it was on then. Shelby and Miles and the team they put together built a legendary vehicle called the GT40. It was sleek, it was muscular, it was low and mean, it looked like it could fly. It didn't use a high-winding European engine, it carried a bulky American-built Ford V8. It was a beast of a car, but it didn't win right away. But as Henry Ford focused on the checkered flag, Carroll Shelby focused on building and sustaining a true legend on four wheels. And he told Henry Ford they might not have won right out the gate, but they scared the pants off Enzo Ferrari when that GT40 hit 218 miles per hour on the straightaway. So the story goes, and it's all true, Ford and Ferrari continued to duke it out. Ford was inching closer, but not able yet to take the flag. At one point, the American team was struggling to keep their brakes from overheating with all the power they could put to the wheels. It's called brake fade, and it was burning their brakes out. It was causing massive complications. And then Shelby and Miles, they read the race rules, and they came up with an idea that only a group of maverick Americans would ever do. They did a pit stop, and they shocked the world because they changed out their entire brake assembly in record time and moved on. Ferrari was apoplectic. He tried to complain. But as they approached the 1966 24-hour Le Mans race, Shelby had built 3 GT40s. And they were in it, man. It was a nasty race. But in Carroll Shelby's words, he said, we're lighter, we're faster, and if that don't work, we're nastier. Those 3 Ford GT40s pushed the Ferrari team all the way to their limits until the last Ferrari in the race blew up its engine trying to keep up. And the Ford team finished with all 3 GT40s taking the top 3 trophies. And Ford went on to do it again for the next 3 consecutive years. That movie, in my opinion, has America down to a T. I mean, as a people, we are not always the most refined. We got a maverick streak a mile long. Our people can get rowdy and boisterous and speak out of turn, but we're also fiercely loyal and overly determined. It's as if losing is antithetical to being American. We take yes as permission to go the extra mile, and we often take no as a challenge to overcome. If they don't have what we need, we'll make it from scratch, and if they don't know where it is, we'll go find it. And if they say it can't be done, then by God, we'll just do it to prove that it's doable. If a friend says they need something, the culture of America means that we will stop what we are doing and give them the shirt off our back. And if you mess with our friends, it's the same as if you mess with us. I believe that by and large, Americans love deeper, work harder, win more, and lose less than pretty much any country in the world. We may often be brash and sometimes off color, but we're good. And I mean good as in good at heart. There's nothing about America that is perfect, but pretty much everything about it is good. Carroll Shelby also once said, he said, if you're not winning, you're losing. Fair enough. Ford versus Ferrari. Epic flick about an epic race in an epic car built by an epic group of men, but it's also a story about the American spirit. And in my opinion, just sitting here in my vantage point, with thousands of you out there affirming it every day, I believe that the American spirit and faith and tradition, I believe it's all on the rise. We are so back. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Man, if you haven't seen that movie, you're going to have to now. Ford versus Ferrari. Just a great flick. But like I said, y'all, it just encapsulated America. And I meant what I said too. When I say there's nothing about America, I know it's nothing about America that's perfect. But pretty much everything about it's good. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, hey, listen, I got to tell you before I go any further, attorney Stan McDonald, he is the sponsor of those monologues you hear every single day, the Rightside Way. The Rightside Way monologue. Stan McDonald, he's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama. I know him personally. I think the world of him. I know you would too. If you already know him, great, you'd probably attest. But Stan McDonald, listen, I got to tell you, he's not only the kind who can advocate for your legal needs, he's also been a warrior on the conservative policies and politics that ruffians always care about. So yes, he is one of us. That being said, attorney Stan McDonald, y'all, he can represent you in real estate transactions in any local, state, or federal court. He can do it all. And I like to say that if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend, and likewise, your opposition would have no greater foe. So, that being said, I'm going to tell you how to reach him. You ready? Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. And here's his phone number. You ready? 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio, please. And now the thing. No representation made. The quality legal source be informed is greater than the quality legal source performed by the lawyers. Oh, that was a good one, and you know
really
it was.
Yeah. I have to admit, that was a good one.
Text lines are open. What do you got? You had something over there. You said on one of those.
Oh, yeah, we had a comment on YouTube. Lonnie Varner on YouTube said, afternoon, men, happy Fudge Friday. So
they're already grabbing hold of the fudge.
We got one vote for Fudge Friday.
That's right. Nice. Dave from Capshaw says, is that shirt you have on in the merch store? I didn't know. I said, my wife wants me to have one. I appreciate that. No, it is not. But perhaps that will happen in the near future. So thank you very much. Yes, I'm wearing a long sleeve golf style shirt that the lovely Charlene had done for me with the Rightside Media logo on it. It's part of my swag.
That's the exclusive swag.
It's a swag. Alex Mathens checking in saying Ford versus Ferrari is one of the best flicks on leadership and the power of team ever. It really is. It really is.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, I may have to watch it again.
Christian Bale played Ken Miles really well.
It did it awesome. And Matt Damon playing Carroll Shelby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that part when he gave that speech and he said, my name's Carroll Shelby. I build race cars. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Dustin from Hazel Green says, to show his dedication to the team. Oh, I missed one. He says, Phil, Shelby and co-driver won the 59 Le Mans and an Aston Martin DBR1. Yes, indeed. Thank you. It says Ken Miles gave up his dream and his life for that program. He was a driver's driver. Miles is right there with Senna in world class, once a generation unmatched talent. Number of wins don't matter. Miles and Senna both gave their lives in the pursuit of perfection, but at their best were untouchable. He says to show his dedication to the team, he gave up his chance at a triple crown, something no driver has ever done, winning Sebring, Daytona, and Le Mans all in the same year. And you know the rest from the movie. Yeah. It's an amazing story. It really is. And Ken Miles was definitely one of a kind. Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate you, man. You're definitely a race fan, I can tell. Shorty from Anderson says, hey, Phil, excellent monologue. Another one out of the ballpark. Keep up the good work, brother. Thank you, Shorty. Appreciate you, man. Scott from Russellville says, great monologue as usual. Now I'm going to have to watch that movie to keep my man card. Yes, you will. We will not question your manhood unless you tell us you just chose not to watch it. That's a different story. Brand spanking new in the texters. Get their name and where they're from. Says, I've been listening for around 6 months, and that was my favorite monologue so far. Well, thank you, my unnamed friend. We appreciate you. Tell us who you are and where you're from so we can plug you in. And thank you for joining the text lines. Brian from Huntsville. Shelby, yep. Tell a Southern boy something can't be done. He always proves he can, providing he does not say the infamous 3 words, hold my beer. And then lastly, John from Huntsville checking in, saying, Phil, spectacular monologue, definitely one of your best ever. Also, did you hear the weird story about how they found the unexploded World War II bomb at a train station in Paris? I have no doubt, man. Happened all the time when I lived over there. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn, stretching across the border to Fort Benning. And go ahead and throw in big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi, too, while you're at it, all just for good measure. All right, we're in studio right now. Now, I knew this was going to be scheduling tight. Kirk Cameron is hopefully still going to be here very soon. He's been actually making the rounds to a number of schools. And so his handlers just let us know that they got held up at one of the schools and they're working to do what they can. In the meantime, though, I do have somebody who was already scheduled to be here at like 3-ish who showed up early, on time, and overdressed for radio. So chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, longtime friend, head of the Alabama Library Board, and the only butterfly farmer I know. John Wall, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It sounds like I have too much work on my hands now. That's getting to be a longer and longer
By the
list.
way, most of what I said doesn't pay you a dime.
No, unfortunately, that's right. But you don't do it for the money, I'll tell you that.
No, that's exactly right. I remember talking to somebody, and I know I've joked with you about this before, but about being chairman of the state party is the most overworked, underpaid job in the world.
And I have found out that the state library board is not much better.
Well, especially when you bring your usual type ruffian controversy to it.
Yeah.
You are indeed a troublemaker.
By nature, and I'm proud of it. So, Roughside Ruffians, I was the original. I'm the OG. I'm the OG.
OG ruffian, and got the T-shirt to prove it.
That's right.
Well, let me ask you something, by the way. State Library Board,
Yep.
What's the latest on all that? Because you guys, I know that you're working on things that could be helpful to curriculum for schools. I know you're working on things that could be helpful to cleaning up libraries and taking things out that shouldn't be in the kids section in the first place. And you've also been getting all kinds of pushback, and there's been threats of litigation and cats and dogs living together. I mean, what's happening right now?
Well, look, it's a great question. And the important thing with the library board is we did what needed to be done. We kind of took it. We said no. And no is a powerful concept. It's in our culture, political correctness is pervading every single area.
Oh, yeah.
This woke agenda, socialism, all these things. And so for me, as I watched that board develop, and I watched good people, but didn't have the backbone to stand up, I was like, okay, somebody has to take a lead. I was a newer member. I was appointed to the board before this controversy came up, but I was like, somebody has to just stand up and say, look, this is not right. Period. Like there's no other thing you can really do with it. You got to say no. And so that concept of no is a powerful concept. But cleaned up the code. And look, the bottom line is, and I'm going to tell parents out there right now, as the state library board director, you are our front lines. Go out there, check out your local library.
Absolutely.
If there are inappropriate books in your children's sections, that library will lose state funding. Period. No loopholes, no ifs, buts, or whens about it. They'll lose state funding immediately. We'll vote on that as a board, and they will not get any until they are in compliance with APLS codes.
Did you ever, and I feel like we've talked about this too, but did you ever, in your wildest dreams, imagine that libraries would be this controversial?
I never. Look, I remember the first time I was sitting on that board, and a parent brought in one of these books, and it was so bad that I wanted to crawl under the table.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a farm.
It's like embarrassing, isn't it?
Yes, very, very, very awkward, very embarrassing. I'm a farm boy from North Alabama. I grew up, conservative. I don't talk. I don't think. I don't look at material like that. Period.
Yeah.
And when I'm sitting in that, I'm like, this is in a children's section for children that are 8 years old, 6 years old. I was horrified. And it was that moment when I was kind of just was speechless for a minute. And then I said, and I remember to say my exact wording, I was like, as a man of faith, I am horrified. And I will make this my priority to get this out of our children's sections. And that commitment still stays to this day.
Well, you guys have done a yeoman's work on it, and I know you've got one of my good friends on there, Amy Minton, on the board with you.
No, she is a very solid member, for sure.
Yeah, she is. So let me ask you something, though, and I'm running a little bit afield of just, but I'm kind of following a stream of consciousness here. I know that you don't sit on the school board, but in your view as a state party chairman, in your view as the library board chair, do you see us being able to get what I would call faith-based and/or patriotic civics type materials into our K-12 schools to restore the balance to what's been taken away from kids so much in recent years?
Look, I think that's desperately important. If we talk about what issue is most important in the United States of America right now, I think that issue is our schools. Look, socialists for years, generations have known this fact. Those who control education today control the country tomorrow. And it's why they target our children.
Yeah.
And this is a targeting. I don't want to hear another person tell me, oh, this is just natural, this is whatever. No one thinks it's appropriate or good to put sexually explicit stuff directly in front of children.
Yeah.
Like there's an agenda, and that agenda, and it's very, very simple. In order to have a socialist form of government, you have to destroy three things. You have to destroy the family unit, you have to destroy your local community, and you have to destroy faith in God. And that way, people aren't dependent on each other. They're not dependent on their family, and they're not dependent on a higher power.
Yeah.
They're dependent on government. And that's the end game. And so in order to do that, you've got to destroy morality. And I think that's what a lot of this is about. It's about destroying the family unit and destroying morality. And that way, that pushes us towards needing government. A broken family needs government for support. And so and I always say, my stump speeches now, I always start out with, look, we are in a political battle for the heart and the soul of this country. But if we're honest, it goes way past political. This is a battle between light and darkness. And we need to understand that if we're going to have a chance at actually accomplishing our goal, which is restoring America and making sure that our children and our country has a bright future.
Oh, that's so well said. I think you're giving the monologue on Monday's show, just so you know. I'll just replay that. Well, let me jump into politics because it's not like you don't do a little bit of that. So as chair of the state Republican Party, you are also, if I'm not mistaken, what's your title? Chairman of the Southern States, is that right?
No, that's right. I've got
for the RNC?
14 states, the southern region of the RNC, 14 states. Yeah.
Okay. I did just a little short video today. I started doing this thing where I do what I call thoughts on the morning drive. And I did this little video this morning where I asked the question, are we seeing the demise of the Democrat Party right now? And Alabama, they're already in disarray. They have been in disarray for a while, but I thought that was more Alabama-centric. But what I'm looking at right now is on the national level, I see no focus. I see no governor on themselves. I see no decorum. And I see basically no policies and no messaging points. And then all the things they've done the last few weeks. And I want to ask you this. I've also learned today there's a major investigation into Act Blue, which is their chief fundraising arm. So are we seeing the demise of the Democrat Party?
Look, yes and no. And I say no because I don't want anyone out there to get complacent.
Yeah.
The Democrats, and it's bigger than the Democrats, it's this socialist movement. It's this politically correct movement. It's the mainstream media. They are upset. They've taken a hard hit. And their narrative that the American people wanted to be, that what they wanted the American people they got shot down November 5th.
Yeah.
The American people are not for this woke trash. They are not for the socialist agenda. And this was a check on their power. So to that I say, stay vigilant. Fight for freedom. We've been given a 4-year reprieve. They will be back. They will be back stronger than ever. And this battle, we have to take it from now national politics and take it into our local government, take it into our schools, and take it into every area of life and combat this agenda that is still going to be being pushed. As far as the actual Democrat Party, though, I think, look, right now the Democrat Party could be a study on why DEI projects don't work. They raised up people who were not necessarily the best communicators.
Yeah.
Were not necessarily the most electable, but they fit their narrative. And this is what happens. You end up with a organization that does not have a good leader. Think about who's leading the Democrat line right now on the national level.
Yeah, who?
They don't have a good
There's
leader.
no central figure.
That's right. And you look on the Republican side, you got Donald Trump, you got J.D. Vance, you got Ron DeSantis. I mean, you got Glenn Youngkin. You got all these guys you could pull out and put anywhere and have them represent the party well day one. Byron Donalds. So I think that's a big thing. When you raise people up who don't deserve to be where they're at, you actually destroy your organization. And now, what I love about this right now is the Democrats are doubling down on the same flawed policies that beat them November 5th.
Yeah.
And if that continues, who knows? Maybe it is the end of the.
At least the end as we know it, right?
Right.
The Act Blue thing, I don't know if you've been tracking that or not. So for people who aren't familiar, maybe I'm a political junkie, but the two biggest fundraising arms for the party politics that we have nationally are an organization called WinRed on the Alabama on the Republican side, and then Act Blue, which is the Democrat side. News broke this morning that most of the major staff positions at Act Blue all resigned in the last few days. And the last attorney they had in the general counsel's office left yesterday after sending an email reminding everybody that there are whistleblower statutes they can use, like whatever that means. And this is not just rumor. This is actually following a congressional investigation and inquiry that began. What I'm also hearing about Act Blue is that what they're finding is they were taking foreign donations and not processing them when they shouldn't have, among other things. What are your thoughts on that as in your position with the RNC?
You're basically saying the Democrats have been cheating?
No.
I know. That's I thought it's shocker.
I didn't say it that way.
Shocker. No, look, Act Blue, I have had serious questions about them for a while because they bring in too much money.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. There's something wrong. Either they're assigning donations, larger donations under multiple people. Perhaps it's the foreign donations. I don't know what. I see the smoke. But I do believe there's fire there, and I think these resignations, I think that proves that we're correct in that assumption. There is something wrong. What is it? We don't know yet, but I hope we find out, and they need to be held accountable for it.
Well, if Act Blue goes down, the Democrat Party is going to have a much harder climb back to doing anything meaningful because that's their money arm. And you and I both know the politics does have a cost attached to it. There's a paycheck and there's also a accounts payable that has to be made on everything you do to run for office.
Well, and don't forget the Democrat Party is still hundreds of $1 million in debt.
Oh, they are. Did Kamala ever pay off her $20 million from the campaign?
You know, I don't know. That's a good question. I'll tell you this. So our state party meeting was last Saturday.
Yeah.
And somebody brought up in one of the reports that the Democrat Party was the Republican Party had this much money in the bank. The state party were over $1 million in the bank in the state party. And then the Democrat Party is $200-some million in debt. And the crowd applauded. Now, I had to go immediately because there were press in the room. So I had to get up immediately afterwards. And I said to the press in the room, that is probably the only time you will hear the Republican Party applaud debt.
Well, it's a perfect fit, though.
Yes.
All right, listen, we're in studio right now with Alabama Republican Party Chairman John Wall, who, among other things, is also the chairman of the State Library Board, and he's still a businessman. He's got his own life out there, but he's invested so much of his time and energy in the things that ruffians care about. So we'll be right back after this break. More with John Wall, and we'll see what's going on with our other guest, Kirk Cameron, whether he can make it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, well, we just learned a moment ago that the schedule got all gaffed up, and that Kirk Cameron will not be in studio tonight, but we still have that great event tonight in Gadsden. He's been out speaking to multiple schools. I know he was at least 2 elementary schools and 1 middle school today here in the Etowah County area in northeast Alabama. And he is slated to be at the church at Wills Creek tonight, which is one of the biggest churches in the Etowah County region. And it's going to be a great event, his new Faith and Family Tour, and I'll tell you more about that here in a few minutes. Right now, I'm back in studio with John Wall, who is the chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. All right, so listen, John, I remember what it was like being a county party chairman. Cannot imagine what it's like being a state party chairman, much less a regional chairman. That being said, we have a potential dynamic coming up in the election season, which a lot of folks don't realize starts here real soon, because 2026 may be 26, but people can start their actual formal fundraising and campaign organizational efforts 1 year out from the primary, which is just like, 2 months away?
Oh, that's right, end of May.
Yeah, and so that being said, there's a lot of speculation right now about whether, and there's articles in Yellowhammer and 1819 and others, there's a lot of speculation right now that Senator Tuberville may well want to run for governor. There's a lot of people that think that would be a pretty cool idea. I would love him in both locations, but I'll be honest with you.
You now believe in cloning, right?
I do. I'm ready. Yes. Can we have Tuberville 1 versus Tuberville 2? That'd be great. But and what happens if they disagree? Yeah. But no. If the thing is, Tuberville's seat is up, so he's not running safe. If he runs for the governorship, he's leaving behind his Senate seat, which means that you, as a sitting party chairman, could be in the position of not only seeing all the other races going on, all the state legislative races, you may have the 2 biggest races in the entire Southeast being the governor of Alabama and the Senate position from Alabama, both being open seats. Woo!
Yeah, at the same time. I mean,
are you tired yet?
Well, and it goes past that. Okay, let's think about what we have up in 2026 right now in Alabama. You mentioned, you're going to have all the state senators, all the state representatives are going to be on the ballot back up for the election. But then think about the constitutional office, because it's not just governor.
Oh, yeah.
You got governor, you got lieutenant governor, you got secretary of state, you got state auditor, you've got agriculture and industries, and you've got attorney general.
Yep.
That are all open. They're not just up for election. They're all open.
They're all
seats.
term limited. They're out.
And then you add to that a potential U.S. Senate race. The dynamics change. Everything changes. So, it's going to interest. I've been hearing recently different names. Different people saying, if Tuberville does pull the trigger, would this person be interested? Would that person be interested?
Yeah.
And I think that decision, I think there's a lot of people out there waiting to announce what they're running for, what they're thinking about, till they see what actually happens in that gubernatorial race. And is there an open Senate seat?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of names that people are already expecting to run for something. I think Steve Marshall is still on everybody's mind. Will Ainsworth is on everybody's mind. And then certainly Tuberville, what's he going to do? I think Tuberville would be a shoo-in if he wanted to run for his incumbent position as a U.S. Senator. But I think he's also got strong name ID if he wanted to run statewide for governor. And then it changes. It changes. If Tuberville makes that decision, it changes our political landscape.
Very much. And the big question, too, is, Will Ainsworth just this week came out with he's ready to run no matter what.
He says.
So
that's right.
That's a clash of the Titans.
And everybody believes, and I've known Will for a long time. Everybody believes that Will's been sort of posturing towards that for quite a while. Yeah. But if that happens, if Tuberville does that, it when I say changes the political landscape, it changes the calculus for people who are thinking about what they're going to do. Because just like Kay Ivey, who ran for lieutenant governor, she had been a gubernatorial candidate until she saw the race changing before her eyes, and she moved down to the lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. There are people who are going to change what they will do based upon what Tuberville does.
Oh, 100%. I mean, look, you've got people who are obviously interested in the U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
I know one of those names out there is John Merrill, right? Rumor is he may be running for one of the other constitutional offices. If a U.S. Senate seat comes open, what do you do? Open Senate seats don't come open very often.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of people who think, okay, this is possibly the only shot in my lifetime. Do I take it?
Well, I'll go ahead with 30 seconds left to just throw one more monkey wrench in your works here. I'm just sitting here speculating that we may wind up seeing a new Space Force secretary, and that could wind up being our current Congressman Mike Rogers, because there's always been that speculation that Mike Rogers helped establish Space Force, that he's the chair of the House Armed Services, which it's hard to leave that position, but holy cow. And then maybe he's even tired of being a congressman. I don't know. I haven't asked him, but he's been there for a while. And so if he vacates, then you've got a senior congressional figure, senator, governor, and everything else all wrapped up in one. And that's just, then there's Tennessee.
Hey, and look, don't forget there could be other congressmen jump in the Senate race. We could have all open seats. Who knows?
It could be madness.
Fasten your seatbelt for 2026.
You know what's cool, though, is I do believe that the Republican Party has a deeper bench to work with. And so the fact that we're talking about this means there are names.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yep. All right, more of this. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. No, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, I've got a captive guest right now, and so I just held on to him. John Wall's still with me, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. He's also the chair. How do you call it? You're a vice chair of the RNC for the Southern States. Is that the correct way of saying it?
That's right. Technically, it's a vice chairman of the RNC, but they elect 4 regions. So I'm the southeastern region chairman, quote unquote. Technical term is vice chair.
Do you ever see your day job?
What day job? No, I actually last week, weather was nice. I was like, I need to spend more time on the farm. So I got a few days in.
You did, and I know I've mentioned it, but I just think it's the coolest thing in the world that you actually have a butterfly farming business, which is pretty epic.
No, it's unique.
I've never met anybody that does that.
I'm convinced that I got elected not because of my political skill, but because I was a butterfly farmer. Like, how do you vote against a butterfly farmer?
Yeah, he's such a nice guy, and he's a butterfly farmer,
Yeah.
so
Well,
he's got my vote.
I actually used that. I was going on Good Morning America a year out from the election. I knew they were going to be asking me some hard questions, pro-life, Trump, all the negativity towards Trump.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in those hard situations, I'm going with MSNBC or ABC or CNN. I always start with, behind the scenes because they mic you up and you prepare. And I was like, how I want to introduce you. Here's a little bit about my background. I'm the youngest state party chairman in the country, and I'm a butterfly farmer because this is my hope, that it's hard to attack a butterfly farmer too brutally on the air.
See, I've never had that luxury. I sit around saying things like "win friends, kill enemies," and they're like, "We got to take this guy down fast."
Yeah. Kill him with diplomacy. That's my model.
Hey, speaking of people that say stuff, MSNBC, you mentioned it a minute ago. I got a piece here from MSNBC. It's in my stack of resources for the day. Stacey Abrams wrote a thing that came. It's attributed to her. I don't know that Stacey Abrams could write an article that's over 2 pages long.
ChatGPT can, though.
Do what? Oh, there is that. Anyway, she wrote it for MSNBC. It came out, Dateline, right about 4 days ago. And the headline is, this is the liberal view, obviously, Stacey Abrams. The GOP wants to treat American values as a culture war issue, and we shouldn't take the bait.
There's so many responses to that.
My first thought was American values are a culture war issue.
By nature, values are our culture. That's
absolutely.
Right. Yep.
That's exactly what culture is made of.
Well, look, let's go deeper with this. It's been the Democrat Party and Stacey Abrams herself in Georgia, and I know this very well because this is one of my 2 troubled children in the southern region. I only have 2, North Carolina and Georgia. The Democrat Party have used their culture war issues for decades.
Yeah.
And, we saw that most recently with the whole thing over pro-life, right? Like they use that as a culture war bat to beat Republicans over the head. And I think Republicans ran from it. And I'm really proud to see the Republican Party waking up. And by Republican Party, I don't mean the party itself. I mean our elected officials. Yeah. Sometimes they take a little more time to realize what's going on with the base. The party here in Alabama is very grassroots. We feel it. We know what the base is thinking.
Yep.
And it's time we did get into the culture war issues. Actually defend ourselves on abortion because it is okay to protect innocent life. That's not something we should run from. We should run to it and explain why we care. And it's the fact that we care about that is why
defend who we are.
Yes, we defend the rights of the unborn just like we're going to defend your rights as born, whether that's the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. It's why we defend the press's right, even the press's right to attack us.
Absolutely.
First Amendment. We believe in free speech.
Absolutely.
We believe in these things. And so, look, it's time the Republicans got involved in the culture war. And you know what? There's nothing more that I would rather be in the political fight for than fighting for things like pro-life, than fighting for the minds of our children, than fighting against our girls being subjected to men in their bathrooms or playing against them in their sports. So bring it on.
I agree. I say bring it on. And she, of course, she's lamenting the intent to do away with DEI. That's one of her. And she also, by the way, equates the releasing of the world from DEI's grasp as racism. So it went down that immediate road. There's no other mantra they've got. And when they don't see something going their way, they bring up either abortion or racism. And I have yet to see anything else on their plate.
Well, it's all they have, insults, right? If you can't win an honest and open debate on what's a policy debate, then what you're left with is insulting your opponent. And look, that's what Democrats are best at, because they can't win the policy debates.
No, they can't, and we showed that in November. Hey, let me ask you something before we go. We got about 5 or 6 minutes here. You, as a state party chairman, I'll tell you, me being in the Alabama State Senate for 8 years, and I loved our party members, and I was on the executive committee back then, the state executive committee, and very involved, and I was a county party chairman, but I rarely ever saw the state party taking what I would call a firm stance on legislative matters. In fact, there were a couple of times when I got miffed because I would feel like we were getting beat up by the teachers union, and we never saw the party come to the state house and talk to us,
or have your back, right?
Yeah, and I said as much, but I don't see that with you. You come out with legislative agendas. You've got bills you're trying to get passed, and I've actually seen you go into the state house and meet with people directly. And I know you've got some tax bills right now. So what do you got brewing on this from the party standpoint?
Well, first, I appreciate you recognizing it because, look, policy is very important to me. I always tell people, and this goes for our candidates too, what makes the Republican Party special? It's not our name. It's the values we represent.
There you go.
And if we ever stop seeking to stand for good values, then we will cease to become great. This is just a fundamental fact. We have to keep the platform strong. We have to advocate for good policy that actually helps people have a safer and more productive life. And so, yeah, one thing that's near and dear to my heart is letting people, hardworking Alabama families, and individuals keep more of their money. This is something government forgets. Government funds are not created by the government. They're created by we the people.
Right.
And so any chance I get to say, look, where can we find areas where we can cut wasteful spending, trim the fat, or if we have budget surpluses, return that to the people. And I'm really proud of some of the work we've seen recently on this. The most recent bills are bring down the income tax a little bit with some extra areas where people can have deductions in the right places, especially looking at the child care deduction.
Right.
Larger families. Yeah. People shouldn't be punished for having a kid. Let's help them out. Cutting the grocery tax.
Thank you.
This is something the party has led on, and what I love about this one is it helps everyone who eats.
Yeah, and by the way, everyone eats.
That's right.
So this is a tax that reaches everyone.
It reaches everyone, and especially helps those who are struggling to put food on the table. Thinking about the lower income families or single parents. And we want to be there for them. Look, cost of living is going up. We're still suffering under the policies of the Democrat Party and Joe Biden over the last 4 years. People are struggling to make ends meet, and government, we want to put money back in the pockets of the individuals.
And your eggs would be 4% cheaper on day one.
That's right. Well, look, and we see Donald Trump leading the line in Washington, D.C., right? Like getting it back and saying, look, we need to put people first again, whether that's, the tax cuts, the policies, what he's doing. And I want to see Alabama leading that line as well.
Yeah.
I want to see Alabama leading the nation in conservative policy. It's our birthright. You won't find a state that's more conservative than us. I know I'm partial, but I think the people of Alabama are the greatest people in this country.
I would absolutely, completely agree with that. And I'll tell you what, though, and I'm not knocking Governor Ivey when I say this. Some might take it that way, but I think the state is ready, and I think the nation needs Alabama to be a vocally, visually leader state. We are a red state. We are a state where Republican values and traditional conservative values and Christian values are still appreciated and much wanted. But I feel like the one thing that's been missing is the fact that Alabama has not been like look at Ron DeSantis to our look at Brian Kemp to our east. Look at Tate Reeves to our west. Look at Bill Lee. You always know where the governor is, and you know what the agenda is, and you kind of get a feel that somebody's out there stirring things with a stick and doing a press conference to talk about it. And I'm ready for Alabama to be that.
No, look, 100%. The people of Alabama are ready for Alabama to take this leadership position.
And we've got everything it takes to do it.
We do. We've got the base. Look, if Ron DeSantis can do what he did in Florida with with a 50-50 state, imagine what Alabama can do. And look, I'm tired. No offense to Ron DeSantis. I'm ready to stop following Florida. Let's do some stuff where Florida has to follow us for a change.
That's exactly right. Well, I think the days to come are going to be very telling. I hope that some of my companions from days that are still there in the legislature and all the ones who joined thereafter are going to wind up doing some things that are more red meat. Lay off the gambling, lay off of the fears of whether we should extend the tax cut, that kind of stuff. It's time to remember who they are.
Be bold.
And be bold.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that you as a party chairman called them to that. And I thank you for being here today.
Yeah, good to be on the show.
Absolutely. John Wall, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. Oh, by the way, a vice chair for the RNC for the Southern States. And oh, by the way, a pretty good dude. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. I got a bunch of text messages came in during all that. That was awesome that John Wall was able to be with us. That was a last minute. He and I talked last night. He goes, "How about I drive on over?" So I was like, "Yeah, come on." And I'm glad he did because Kirk Cameron was not able to make it. So I apologize to any of you who may have been tuning in expecting to watch the live stream and see Kirk Cameron in studio. We did have him on by Zoom, about 2-3 weeks ago?
That video is up on our YouTube if you want to check that out.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Anyway, the event is tonight. I think there may still be a few tickets left, not many, but they told me or told us that the ticket sales have gone really well. But you can go to KirkCameronTour.com if you still want to come to Gadsden tonight and see him do his Faith and Family Tour. And by the way, I am glad that there's somebody out there in celebrity land who uses their celebrity status to do things that are meaningful like this. I mean, this is not something he has to do. I don't know how much he's making in, like how many movies he's making these days and that kind of thing. I know he's got a new kids show, which is all values and faith-based. That's cool. I know he's got a number of things going on with, kids' books. I mean, his heart right now is to bring values and faith and patriotism, really, back into a means by which kids can grab hold of it. So check him out. You can look up on Brave Books. Brave Books publishes his stuff. He's been doing tours today. That's what held them up, being at schools. And so anyway, that event is tonight, Kirk Cameron here in Gadsden, Alabama. We are literally, by the way, if you're not familiar with Gadsden, you need to get familiar with Gadsden. What a beautiful river town this is. And we are right on the interstate, literally in between Chattanooga and Birmingham. And just a little ways away from Huntsville and then Rome, Georgia. I mean, we're kind of a crossroads community. All right, I got some text messages. What is Dave from Capshaw saying? Dave from Capshaw says he took a picture. He's watching the live stream. He took a picture with me and John Wall, and he thinks that the way I'm looking over at John Wall, that it makes me look like Trump looking at Zelensky. No, dude, that ain't right. John's my friend.
Yeah, John didn't come over here to take billions of cash from us. No.
Yes, and there's no animosity there. Julie from Hillsborough says, if Tuberville chooses to run for governor, I could see him pushing through term limit legislation as his senatorial swan song. Yeah, you know what, though? He can try. He's still got to have a bunch of votes to make it happen. And I will tell you, Julie, thanks for the text. I'll tell you that as a state senator, I was one of the few who kept signing on to term limit bills in the state legislature, and we could never get the votes to get it to the floor. We couldn't even get it out of committee. I mean, it was me and who else? I think it was me and Rusty Glover and I think Shay Shelnut and, a couple others who were always like, okay, we got the bill. Anybody want to sign up as co-sponsors? Crickets. Can you play me some crickets? I'll do it again. Ready? Hey, we got the bill. Anybody want to be a co-sponsor on term limits? There you go. Because they all know they'd be putting themselves out of work. Thomas Mathen says, so glad you selected Thankful Thursday. I smiled after I'd suggested that on the day TBD versus T-Bone versus Turbo Thursday. That is when Cindy got on board with it. Thankful to you. Cindy, by the way, if Elvis saying thank you very much is copyrighted, then the Colonel does a darn good cover of it.
I'm still going to put in that you got to be more thankful.
You gotta do the hands too.
You got to be more thankful.
Be more thankful. Gotta be. You need to find that for the show's over. John from Huntsville said the racists had last-ditch attempts and it was named White Dudes for Harris. Isn't that amazing? They got away with that. I mean, if we had done Black Dudes for Trump, that would have gone.
Yeah,
my gosh.
Yeah.
Let's have a hat made. Black Dudes for Trump. No.
And then Obama saying, "I'm not feeling enough energy from the brothers. Vote for Harris."
Yeah, we couldn't never say that.
Mm-mm.
The racist, John from Huntsville says, the racists had a last-ditch attempt. It was named White Dudes for Harris, and we rejected it because the zero of their dudes or dudettes are electable regardless of color. The content of their character has been found lacking. Perfect text. Thank you, John. Dustin from Hazel Green sends me a meme. What do we got here?
They sent in a bunch of pictures talking about you called him a fan of racing, and his text above said fan is one way to put it. Nerd would be a better fit.
Nice.
They talk about his 3 daughters and how he's got them working on cars.
Nice. I see that. Starting them out young, too. Good job, man. Scott from Russellville says, about the monologue earlier. Oh, I think I read that piece, didn't I? Scott from Russellville said he's going to be watching the movie Ford versus Ferrari to keep his man card. And then the new texter in the line was Charles from Decatur. Well, we're glad you're there, Charles. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good stuff. All right, y'all text it in. Call it in, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Coming up next, we do a round of JP on sports. If you're not familiar, JP knows a little something about sports. A little something. And you know what? I got nothing. I can't correct any of it, so we just dialogue. But he's got the floor coming up here right after the break. We call it JP on Sports. He's got his very own sound effect with his own groupies. But he's also, by the way, got his own sports radio show on Saturday mornings called Off the Bench on the Ump out of Huntsville, and brand new in the Rightside Media podcast lineup because he's been doing so. We sort of beta tested him, and it seemed to work. And so the brand new podcast, newest to the lineup here at Rightside Media, is JP again, and it's called Out of Right Field. Conservative discussion, sports being the medium by which you communicate.
I've been enjoying making those. I sometimes catch myself getting really amped up. Like this past week, talking about the
NCAA
Tuberville's bill that ended up not passing, and got myself amped up talking about the NCAA because I don't know if I've expressed it enough. I do not like the NCAA.
So no caffeine for you before you do it. Then again, maybe it's better that
Maybe
way.
it is better that way.
All right, coming up next, JP on Sports. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Whew. Goes from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn, stretching across the border to Fort Benning. I called it Fort Benning. And oh, by the way, even big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, aside from the massive footprint, we also have great people, and one of those is JP. So you know the deal. On Fridays, we started doing this thing we call JP on Sports because that's like his gig. I mean, I've never met anybody whose entire evenings is mixed into watching one form of sports or another and then being able to recount details of it that I didn't know existed. So it's kind of fun. By the way, it's going to be more fun today because his dad and grandmother, my brother and mom, are both here in the studio staring at him as we do this because they came by because they're going to the Kirk Cameron event tonight.
They're not even in here. What are you talking about?
Oh, no, they're not here staring at you. Right? She did bring fudge.
Yeah, okay. So she's here, but
it's okay. It's great. All right, but hey, there is actually 2 rounds of this. First round, we call it the 3 and Out. He picks the top 3 stories he believes are out there in sports world. It could be anything. But then we come back after the break and we do the second segment, and it's called the 2-minute warning. I've got a timer and a buzzer, 2 minutes on any sports thing. But the main thing right now is he's got a new sound effect with some groupie sorority girls who thought it was cool. And so hit me some sound effect for it, bro. I still love that.
I think Phil likes it more than I do.
That's true, which is hard to imagine. But anyway, there it is. All right, man, 3 and Out. Number 1, go.
So we got round 2 of the IBOB.
The IBOB.
Coming up this weekend. IBOB 1 was a historical 1 versus 2, Auburn versus Alabama, which, to be honest with you, I don't know if we're ever going to get a 1 versus 2 Alabama in any sport ever again.
Ever.
So that that was historical for sure. But we got round 2 now. The last game of the regular season before we go into SEC tournament play. Auburn clinched the regular season title with their win. Was it last week? And Alabama, I believe, right now clinched the 3 seed. Number 2 is Florida. Florida beat both Alabama and Auburn. So this game doesn't really have much on the line in terms of seeding or whatever, but obviously it's a rivalry, so grudge match is always going to be.
And they both dropped this week too.
Yeah, so they're both lumping into this one because Auburn lost to Texas A&M, and then Alabama lost by, I believe it was 5 to Florida at home. And I think it's at this point in the season the SEC teams have beat up on each other like crazy. I feel like. It's kind of what you expect. Alabama fan hat on here. I'm not really worried because Alabama, they're playing teams that are top 10, top 15 every week in the SEC. So I think once either team, any SEC team, once they get to the tournament and they're done playing other SEC teams, I think they're gonna be just fine. So, but yeah, this is the last game of the year. Like I said, it's always, Alabama, Auburn, and A-Sport, the tensions are gonna be high. So although there's not much seeding on the line, all that's kind of figured out. It's just, a rivalry game. It's always gonna be.
It is. IBOB number 2, Iron Bowl of basketball. IBOB number 2 is going to be in the jungle too, right?
Yep,
and down at Auburn.
Mm-hmm. And I won't play my Bruce Pearl sound effect till after the game because I played it before the game last time and Alabama ended up losing. So I'm gonna put that on hold.
You think that's why?
Yeah, maybe I jinxed it. I don't know, or maybe it's just Auburn's. Just
all I know
good.
is I'll say War Eagle because that's what we do. But I am not going to underestimate anything. This is number 1 versus number 2, and it's still the IBOB, which means anything goes.
Yeah. And like I said, we'll see how Alabama solidified a 2 seed at least. Auburn is going to be the number 1 overall seed in the whole tournament. So we'll see. I don't think either team is going to drop their tournament seeding after this loss. But we'll see. We'll see who can, if there's going to be a split or if Auburn sweeps. We'll see this weekend. IBOB 2.
Hey, let me throw this out there too. Not trying to take away from more time you got, but I think the reality is this is not an state Alabama story. This is national.
Yeah.
This is the entire world of college basketball is watching this game.
Yeah, and if you thought Alabama Auburn football was the greatest rivalry in college football. now we got Alabama-Auburn basketball, which may be the best rivalry in basketball now. So I think that's what's special about Alabama-Auburn rivalries is it transcends all sports. You know?
I heard they both have strong cornhole teams.
Yeah, and we go head-to-head at cornhole too. Yeah, but Duke UNC in basketball, that's kind of just basketball. Michigan Ohio State football, that's just football. Alabama-Auburn, no matter what sport it is, it's high emotion. So I think that might be the best rivalry in all college sports.
All right, dude, that's number one. You got time for 2 and 3. What you got?
Yeah. So my favorite UFC fighter will be fighting this weekend in a massive UFC card coming up. Big pay-per-view, UFC 313. We got Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. This is the rematch of this as the co-main event. We got the main event, Alex Pereira fighting Magomed Ankalaev. How about that?
I don't know how you even say their names. All right.
But this is Pereira's greatest test yet. So as a Alex Pereira fan, it's got me nervous. But this is kind of like the biggest pay-per-view of the year so far for the UFC. So I'm very excited to watch that. It's kind of been weak UFC cards the last couple of weeks. So I'm excited to see a great UFC card this weekend. But yeah, and by the way, Alex Pereira, his nickname is Poatan, which is Brazilian for Hands of Stone, by the way.
Hands of Stone.
If that tells you anything about this dude, I think he's the scariest guy in the UFC. So I'm quite excited to watch
Hands
this
of
weekend.
Stone. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. That's number 2. So you went IBOB 1, UFC 2. What's 3?
So this one is probably going to – my emotions are probably going to get ramped up again because I'm beyond frustrated. 45 Democrats voted against Tuberville's Protect Women and Girls in Sports Act.
Oh, yeah.
And yet, the same people that voted against this bill to protect women wore pink to Trump's speech to try to us women stand against you, Trump. But yeah, we just voted, to keep men in women's sports. So it's pretty ridiculous to me. I had little hopes that they would get 60 votes, which is what it needed to pass. But come on, no Democrat voted for it? Not one? You're telling me Fetterman didn't vote for it or any of the other somewhat... Yeah, and it's funny to me because Fetterman has been distancing himself from his party or trying to... he's been putting out these tweets talking about how ridiculous those Democrats are and y'all got to realize this is why you lost. But yet he votes for these radical woke bills. So I don't... It drives me nuts that we can't get bipartisan support on a common sense layup bill like this. I feel like this is a layup bill for the Democrats to... get away from why they lost, and yet they continue to pander to their radical end of their party, and they're doubling down on it. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So Trump's executive order did not get backed up by law yet, but I would say this fight is not over. I would hope at least that we're able to get, and this passed in the House. So it's amazing that this did not pass
with
in the Senate.
Several. I think 2 or 3 Democrats joined in the House.
Yeah, I mean a handful of Democrats were able to come and get that passed, but I don't know. But this also enables the NCAA, in my opinion, because I mentioned it in the Out of Right Field podcast. Technically, this is a their change of policy, where they said, oh, well, Trump's made it clear we're going to change our policy to keep men out of women's sports, but it still lets them access facilities. It still lets them practice. It still lets them, have access to all that stuff. But then also the method of testing your gender is your birth certificate, which you can amend your birth certificate in, 44 states? So the liberal policymakers in the NCAA know what they're doing with this. So this policy, this quote change policy, is really nothing. So I was really hoping that this Tuberville bill would get passed so that the NCAA, their feet would get held to the fire to actually change something here. But nope, it looks like that the Democrats continue to pander, and the NCAA was just enabled even more to, keep doing this for show. We're changing, but not really.
And and here's the thing. There's 2 reasons to put that bill on the floor, not knowing where the votes were. One is because you're hoping you got the votes at the last minute, and 2 is because you put them on the record.
Yep.
And so Tuberville made them go on the record. They now have to defend, and you got people like John Ossoff running for re-election in the Senate from Georgia in a somewhat purple state, and he just impacted women's sports in a big way, and it's going to be a campaign issue for him because he is now officially on the record.
A bunch of Democrats put themselves on those crazy ads you see of like the transgender ad that Trump ran against Kamala, where it just talked about her being in support of inmates getting transgender like that. They just put themselves on the record. All 45 of them put themselves on the record. Their opponents, like Ossoff's opponent, whoever that is, I guarantee that's going to be a big part of his campaign. Is like, you want to vote for the guy that just voted for this or against this bill, this layup common sense bill.
Yeah.
So hopefully this ends up, getting rid of those folks so that Republicans have an even bigger majority in the Senate, so that maybe after 2026 a bill can get passed and Trump's executive order can become law. But yeah, it drove me up a wall, man, because, like I said, I got a sister that plays college sports. I got, my mom used to play college sports. So like I can't even imagine, having to watch, family members of mine play against sports or against men in sports. So the fact that they're not even thinking that, the Democrats appear to just be falling in line with their party and continuing to double down, and it's going to end up costing them. So hopefully it does cost them, and we can get people in there that will vote for common sense bills like that.
If not, then your mom and dad would need to hire me as their attorney, because I'm pretty sure there'd be problems.
Yeah.
And I could, since your mom has access to the women's locker room, I would say she'd probably go in there with a stick.
Yeah, I would hope so, but. Yeah, it's hopefully we get around to this bill after these people get out, primaried out, because, like I said, they did not help themselves.
Well, and I think a great point needs to be made here. You do a podcast, and your podcast is sports, but you also talk culture. And I think it's fair to say that what you just said there and what you just did for the last few minutes is you clearly exhibited that culture, sports is part of culture.
Yep.
And culture is literally, politics is downstream from culture. Mm-hmm. And so what you just did was you clearly outlined that politics had a dramatic impact on sports. And so conservatives, think about all the times about the kneeling at the anthem, Colin Kaepernick and all that stuff. I mean, it's amazing how much you can find that is conservative values oriented or not, and it's tied up in sports.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to know where you need to stand on those issues.
All right, dude, that's three. That's the 3 and out. All right, that's 3 and out. We're heading to the break right now. Good timing. 3 and out with JP on sports. We're coming right back. We'll go to round number 2, and that's called the 2-minute warning. I got a timer and a buzzer, and we'll just see what all he's got for 2 minutes each. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, we're back for round 2 of JP on Sports. So this is the section we call the 2-minute warning. I've got a timer and a buzzer, and he's got as many 2-minute stories about sports he can cram in. So, JP, 2-minute starts, ready, go.
So this story started late last night into early this morning. So after the Lakers game last night, LeBron is leaving the court. Stephen A. Smith sitting courtside. LeBron and Stephen A. get into it courtside. LeBron gets in Stephen A.'s face, and another video, a fan had a video of it and caught LeBron's lips saying, keep my son's name out of your mouth. And somebody talked about how Stephen A. Smith earlier, I think it was a couple days earlier, said how LeBron was forcing his son. You know, Bronny plays on the Lakers.
Right.
A lot of people think that Bronny should not be in the NBA. He should be in college developing, which I would agree with that. But Stephen A. kind of called out LeBron, saying now he's forcing his son into the spotlight when he's not ready, yada, yada, yada. And that caused this back and forth between LeBron and Stephen A. late last night. And Stephen A. went on First Take this morning, and he kind of said, you know, he understood where LeBron was coming from, you know, as a concerned father and such. But then he kind of doubled down and said that, look, I'm not going after your son. I'm going after, you know, you as a father, because he thinks LeBron is he's putting up his son on a pedestal for his own ego, you know, look at me sort of deal, putting too much pressure on his son, which I would agree with. But I don't know, with Stephen A. and the Stephen A. also just signed a $100 million new contract with ESPN to let him talk more about politics. So maybe Stephen A. is getting a lot more clicks with this story, the political story. It makes me wonder, is he trying to get more into the limelight for his own ego, or is he going
to run for something?
Is he going to run for something?
There's talk.
There's talk he's going to run for something, which I saw a poll. He's at like 2% already in the Democratic Party. But yeah, it's a crazy story for, you know, with Stephen A. and LeBron. But that just kind of illustrates. I've seen Stephen A.'s name in the headlines a lot lately. I wonder if he's going to use that at all.
Well, and LeBron needs to go ahead and toughen up a little bit, because he can't say keep my son's name out of your mouth when his son is a professional athlete, and that's what Stephen A. does for a living.
Yep. If you're going to want your son in the NBA, this is what you got to deal with. So.
2 minutes. There you go. All right. Next, clear the clock. Start the clock. Go.
So with the spring ball starting for football, college football, we've got a lot of position battles in the headlines. Auburn's position battle for QB is pretty much set. I mean, they spent $3 million on Jackson Arnold in the transfer portal, so it's pretty clear Jackson Arnold is Auburn's guy going into next year. However, Alabama, Jalen Milroe went to the draft, so we got a QB battle in Tuscaloosa. We got Ty Simpson, who has been the backup for 5 years at Alabama. Keelan Russell, who is the highest-rated recruit in Alabama history, who is coming in as a freshman quarterback. And then another guy, Austin Mack, who came with DeBoer from Washington. So we got a 3-horse race here, but I think it's really a 2-horse race between Keelan and Ty Simpson. A lot of people, and I would agree, would say Ty Simpson's the safe option. He's done his time as a backup. He's looked really good in spring games, and when he's gone in during garbage time, a lot of people think it'd be safest to hand him the reins. But a lot of people think you got the highest rated recruit in Alabama history. If you don't play him right away, is he going to leave in this new NIL era? You know, if he's coming in expecting to start, which he said he is, will he be okay taking a back seat and developing for a year? But I think this is going to be a close QB battle. I mean, Keelan Russell, like I said, he's the highest rated recruit in Alabama history, not just, you know, quarterback. Any recruit in history with Alabama. So that says something. He's clearly got the talent to play in college football. The question is he going to be ready to start as a freshman? Is he going to handle all the pressure that comes with being the starting QB and such? Initially, you know, like I said, if it wasn't the NIL era, I would say start Ty Simpson, let Keelan develop in the, you know, as a backup, and then start him next year. But as a Bama fan, it worries me if he doesn't start right away. Is he just going to leave, you know, go somewhere else? So, but with the spring practice starting this week, there's been a lot of video of them throwing side by side, a lot of drills videoed and such. So it's an exciting battle in Tuscaloosa.
There it is. All right, and I got to add this real quick to say I admire Ty Simpson's ability to hang on. He could have gone in the portal. Yep. He could have gone and even played for a slightly lesser school, but gotten all kinds of play time, and he chose to stay at the school. You know, basically, he danced with the one that brought him.
Exactly. Yep.
And so I admire that, especially in today's day of the portal and NIL. Next one, 2 minutes starts now.
So we were just talking about talking heads for basketball with Stephen A. Smith. Another one that made some headlines last night was Charles Barkley, because, you know, the Inside TNT NBA, one of the greatest shows ever, not just sports, ever, of Charles Barkley, Shaq, Ernie Johnson, and then Kenny Smith. Their TNT contract's up after this year, and apparently the ESPN has brought them all under their umbrella. So after the TNT era is over for them, they're going to work for ESPN. But Charles Barkley called out his future employer because apparently he went after them for not covering the right stories in the NBA. But you could tell that's not really. He kind of used that as a reason to go after ESPN. That was just kind of his for show reason. There was a lot of animosity talking about ESPN is not talking about the right stuff. They're not actually for the brand of basketball. They're just, you know, for getting clicks, and maybe they're in the DEI woke stuff too with the anchors they have on that I can tell you don't know anything you're talking about with sports. So it was interesting. You know, it was a weird dynamic. Charles Barkley and the Inside TNT staff are about to go to ESPN. But yet, Charles Barkley is not one to mince words, and he's been very open and public about his dislike for ESPN. So I think TNT made a crucial mistake not renewing their contract for this next year, but we'll see if ESPN can make things right with Barkley, because apparently he's got some beef with ESPN as they're going over there next year.
That's crazy.
I know. It's Ernie Johnson, you know, kind of try to rein him in a little bit, but Charles Barkley, like you said, he has no filter, and that's why people love him. So he's made it open through this whole process. He's not happy that TNT didn't renew their contract, and he's not happy with ESPN and how they do things, which is about to be his employers. So like I said, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. We'll see if things smooth over or not.
He's got no filter, and his bank account's already big enough.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't need the money.
There it is, 2 minutes. How much time we got left? You got time?
We got 10 seconds.
You got 10 seconds for me to tell you great job.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is JP on sports. Once again, you can catch him on the Ump on Saturday mornings doing the show Off the Bench from 9 to 11 on weekend mornings. And then, oh, by the way, he's got his own podcast, which comes out on Mondays, and that is called Out of Right Field. So more of the same, culture, politics, all of it with sports. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national covering down on all the issues. And, oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to hour number 3 on a Friday. And we're looking at beautiful weather for the weekend as far as I can tell. Stand by. There's plenty more where that came from, we hope, because spring is en route. It feels like spring is kind of here almost.
And then a 30-degree day will hit you out of nowhere in March. It's Alabama.
And I just keep reminding myself the blizzard of 93 happened in March.
Yeah.
Hey, the text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it. We'd love to hear from you. And then I'll go ahead and say, too, I hope y'all are checking out all the stuff we got on the Rightside Media website. So let me just touch on that just real quickly before we move on, because Rightside Media is the parent company of what we are right now. Rightside Radio is only one of our productions. So we have 5 separate video podcasts that are on there. We have the Rightside Radio, obviously, the live stream and all the things we do. We have the written work that we do that gets published in regional newspapers and outlets all over the area, about 18 or so that we send it out to every week. And then we've got all the stuff like our merchandise store. If you want to buy coffee mugs or T-shirts or hats or whatever else, we'd love for you to check out the website. It's rightsidemedia.org, rightsidemedia.org, and check it out. By the way, I was talking to Natalie, who handles our merchandise today, and she said that we got to replenish a few things. She's sending out stuff every week. So very cool. And thank you to all of you who have been checking it out, and go get more. Jim from Athens texting in. He says, just heard that ICE found the 2 leakers. Oh, really? Wow. I want to know more about this. So if you're not familiar, ICE has been doing, its roundups along with Customs and Border Patrol, doing their roundups for illegal aliens. And more than once, they have gotten to an area, and before they start their raids, they find out someone's leaked it. And next thing you know, there's liberal outlets that are telling, illegals where to go hide. And they even had one instance, I think in Boston, where they were posting and doxing the ICE agents on signs around the area. Here's their name, their addresses, and everything. So if that's true, if they just found the 2 leakers, I tell you what, hey, Jim from Athens, if you've got a story like you're linking it to, well, never mind, I just found it. It's on Fox. I'm going to jump on this for a second.
You're good.
Christy Noam says 2 leakers accused of disclosing ICE operations have been ID'd, and they put law enforcement lives in jeopardy, she says. So, man, they're going to prosecute to the fullest, I guarantee you. 2 people within the Department of Homeland Security have been accused of disclosing DHS operations. Why did they even have the job? They work for the Department of Homeland Security.
Yep.
And their goal was to undermine Homeland Security.
Yeah. It's a joke. It's funny because that just shows how crazy things got under Biden. That so many people in positions to protect us did the opposite.
In a video exclusively provided to Fox News, Noam is seen giving an update on the matter. She said, "We have identified 2 leakers of information here at the Department of Homeland Security who have been telling individuals about our operations and putting law enforcement lives in jeopardy, and we plan to prosecute these 2 individuals and hold them accountable for what they've done." Tell us who they are, ma'am. Tell us who they are so that we can join in the calls. Just unbelievable. It actually says the names have not yet been disclosed. Okay. Wow. All right, Jim from Athens, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
I'll add this too. The chief of the FBI district in New York that was withholding Epstein files, you know how he resigned.
He did, yes.
He left his building today. I don't know if you saw the video.
No.
He threw like a little parade for himself in terms of...
a little parade for himself?
In terms of a bunch of employees, cheering for him as he left. It's...
Wonder how long they'll be there.
What a crap show the Southern District of New York FBI place is. But yeah, so he resigned for not giving over all the files, but decided to leave like that as if like he's a martyr or something. It's like you're protecting a pedophile, so it's not worth the celebration.
You're protecting a pedophile.
And many more.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I see what you're saying because of the files.
Epstein files,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. I was thought you were talking about him. I was
No,
gonna say,
no,
where
no.
did that allegation come from?
No.
Herb from Gurley sending me something. What's he saying? Oh, he's totally off topic, but he says Trump wants the European countries to pay their fair share for defense. They said they could not do it, but as soon as Trump removes funding from Ukraine, the European leaders saying they'll support Ukraine. I said the exact same thing. Yes, thank you, Herb. He says, how do you think Europeans can have a 4-day work week, 4 weeks of paid vacation, and cradle-to-grave health care? It's because Americans have been footing the bill for Europe's defense. Interesting point, Herb. Great point. And yeah, that story, we covered that in great length the other day, and I said something kind of similar, just not quite there about the 4-day work week. That's a great point. Yes, what we're watching right now is what happens when you have peace through strength. People think that peace through strength means you have a big army. It's not just that. That's part of it. Peace through strength is in every aspect of the projections of foreign policy power. And that comes through, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again because if you use this at a water cooler conversation, they'll think you're the smartest person in the room. But it's the acronym DIME, D-I-M-E. It stands for diplomacy, intelligence, military, and economics. And those 4 things are how a nation projects its foreign policy power. And so what you're looking at right now is peace through strength is all 4. And suddenly, it's not just about the United States is an economic power who can put money on something. It's also an economic power who can, oh, by the way, withdraw funds from something. It's also not just a nation that has a big army. It's now a nation that's have an army that's going to be ready. It's not just a nation that has intelligence. It's a nation that can also withhold intelligence gathering and assistance. And then it's also a nation that will not be a diplomat in terms of appeasement. It will be a diplomat in terms of basically saying, here's how things are going to be. So yeah, Herb from Gurley, great point. Thank you very much. And the acronym DIME, that's what you're watching happen right now. That's where peace through strength comes from. David from Bucky's just says War Eagle.
I almost played the Bruce Pearl sound effect, but I
don't do
can't.
that.
I can't.
You can't do it.
I can't not yet, at least.
It's just crass. It's rude. John from Huntsville says, JP, Auburn's going to crush Alabama because Alabama's defense is absolutely terrible. John, don't jinx us, man.
Hey, yeah, jinx them all you want. Keep saying it.
And then the Babylon Bee, I got this from, who was that, Dave from Capshaw? The Babylon Bee headline, Trump secures peace deal where Putin gets Ukraine during the week while Zelensky gets weekends and 2 weeks in the summer. Oh, God. Visitation rights. That's just awful. Oh, my gosh. All right, you guys are an amazing audience. Look, we're going to come back here in a minute, and we're going to be talking about the Democrat Party demise. I talked about it a little bit with State Republican Party and Vice Chair of the RNC, John Wall, who was in studio earlier. Are we watching the Democrat Party just like basically implode? It feels that way. Now, don't count them out. Don't underestimate. Don't assume. But the reality is what we're watching right now is basically self-immolation. They are lighting themselves on fire every single day. And I don't know if they know how to stop at this point. It's almost as if they dug their hole so deep that the only way to do it is keep digging till you find your way out. They can't climb out anymore. I don't know. That's the way it feels. But we're going to talk about some examples, some things about it. And then, y'all text in. What do you think? What do you see? So, yeah, the text line number 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Take me to a break, JP. We'll do that right now. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, so my question to you right before the break was, are we watching the self-destruction of the Democrat Party? Keep in mind, they're doing this to themselves. It is... When your enemies are kicking their own tail, you just don't get in the way, right? You just go ahead and let it happen. And this is everything we're watching right now is a self-inflicted wound. Now, did we wind up having a very strong presence in the elections of our own? Yes. I think that Trump would have won no matter what. But they did not bring their A game. Let's get down to it. Because they don't have one. Now, this is not a Phil's about to bash Democrats session. This is about a statement of fact. There is a literal dearth of leadership right now in the Democratic Party. Look at who they just elected to be the chair of the Democratic National Committee. I mean, the vice chair of the overall National Committee is 20-something-year-old David Hogg, who I don't think has ever done really anything hard in his entire life. And he's a rhetoric monster. He's literally a clickbaiter. And they put him up, and he's now the vice chair of their party. The bench does not have much depth on it for the Democrats. I will say that I believe that there are Democrats out there who loathe what is happening to their party. I do. I know Democrats in Alabama and other places who I don't agree with on policy, but they're decent people. And they just have different views of things than I do. And then there's the wackadoos. And the complete wackadoos, I mean, listen, the level of wackadooness we're seeing right now is that a word, wackadooness? I think it is now. It is now. Wackadooness. It might need its own sound effect. I don't know. But the amount of wackadooness that we're seeing right now in the Democrat Party seems to be increasing. It's almost as if they are lighting themselves on fire, hoping that it hurts us. And it's madness. So let's talk about a few things. First of all, I will say this. You know it's bad when Democrat pundits are turning against the Democrat Party. Here's one for you, JP. Going to your guy, Stephen A. Smith again. Stephen A. Smith went on, was it Colbert the other night? He actually did a couple of things. He went on Jimmy Fallon, and then he also went on The View with the ladies.
Yep.
So Stephen A. Smith is still I got this piece off Breitbart, Dateline yesterday. And he's still like the most vocal person out there, allegedly not running for office. But he did say his words: "The Democrats have no real national voice, so enter moi. They have come to me," he said.
He's right.
They're hoping he's going to run. They need another, enigmatic kind of candidate. That would be a hoot. He would definitely be able to give a stump speech.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he can contain himself and stay off the crazy train. I think he'd find the crazy train at some point.
But he's got it set right now. He just signed a $100 million contract for ESPN to talk sports.
Gosh.
So why would he ruin that and enter the stressful world of politics? I think right now he's using his position to troll, but then also hopefully bring change to the Democratic Party and get them to wake up and realize what they're doing.
Well, he apparently shocked Joy Behar. He went on The View the other day with Whoopi and Joy Behar and the rest of them. And he apparently shocked her because he informed her, contrary to her opinion, that President Trump did in fact receive a mandate from the people of the nation. And in his words, he said he won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in favor of the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, young voters. 89% of the country shifted to the right. That's a mandate. And she did not want to hear that.
Nope, she did not.
And she heard it from a Democrat. And I bet, part of me wonders, did she look at him and almost say, if you didn't vote for him, you ain't black? I wonder if she said that.
It would be par for the course.
At least inside her head.
Yeah, it would be par for the course for her in that trash show.
That's a show that I can't imagine why it still has an audience, but it does. It's clickbait.
Yeah.
It's like video clickbait. But we've also seen like Stephen Colbert, Politico, MSNBC. They're all putting out like basically red flag warnings on Democrats. Politico has one writer named Rachel Bade, and she pointed out that after Trump's speech the other night, that Senator Alyssa Slotkin from Michigan, who was the one who delivered the Democrat rebuttal, that her rebuttal, which was well planned and rehearsed and done professionally, it was completely overshadowed by the way Democrats had acted that night. Like, if she had said something amazing and on point on policy, and all, it still wouldn't have mattered, because at that point the Democrats had already done all their speaking through their protests that night. In fact, she said this. She said, "But if Democrats think standing up and walking out is their best path back to power, rather than adopting a more strategic approach to their Trump resistance, it's going to be a long 4 years and maybe beyond." I think the other night for Democrats, and this is kind of coming to me while I'm talking. You remember last year, JP, when the debate, you know what I'm talking about?
The one, yeah.
All I have to say is the debate. All right, the debate when everybody in the world knew, oh my God, we got a problem. They already knew it. They were just hoping he was going to get through that debate. Joe Biden, hope he'd get through the debate. And he got on the stage and he like folded like a wet napkin. I mean, it was awful. Just completely, and it got to the point that it was embarrassing. I mean, I'm breaking out in a nervous sweat, and I don't even like the guy.
Yeah.
But that was the night when everybody could see it. I think the other night at Trump's speech was the Democrat Party's night to do that. This was the Democrat Party's night to fall apart and fold like a wet napkin. They completely miscued. They completely misread the room. They completely blew some opportunities to keep themselves on even keel. They just went down the wrong roads.
I mean, everybody's sitting there and said, you guys aren't going to clap for a 13-year-old brain cancer survivor. You guys aren't going to clap for a guy that just got into West Point literally on the spot. Like, you're not even going to clap for that. It's like the Trump derangement syndrome is so bad that they've lost all. Like, the 2016 strategy is not going to work because people are so tired of it. It's like, all right, let's get over it. And the Democratic Party doubling down on the Trump bad, so I sit here and pout, and it's not working anymore. So, I mean, unless they course correct, Republicans may just win every election here on out, but they're going to have their own, like, quote, revolution of somebody to come in and, like, change things and kickstart things new.
Yeah. By the way, the thing you said about the 13-year-old kid, DJ, what was his name? DJ no, I can't think of his last name now. Anyway, DJ Daniel. DJ Daniel, young kid who survived multiple brain cancer surgeries. He was told he only had 6 months to live. He's now 6 years past that point. Trump honored him that night, made him an honorary Secret Service member or agent, and the Democrats couldn't stand up. Here's the thing. There were members of that Democrat Party I know that wanted to stand up. There are, because there's enough good people left that would have clapped for that, and they would have loved on that kid. But they didn't, which means that leadership told them not to say a word and to sit. So Hakeem Jeffries was as guilty as anybody, maybe more so, because he's the one that had to have given the direction for everybody to stay seated. All right, we got plenty more where that came from. I'm going to tell you about a big scandal happening for the Democrats. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all don't talk about this show. Goes from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden, all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn, and across the border to Fort Benning. I called it Fort Benning, Georgia. And even big old patches of northwest Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Text messages are coming in. We'll get some of those here momentarily. I'm on this topic of, are we watching the Democratic Party's demise? Literally, are they dying of self-inflicted wounds right now? Now, I made the point a minute ago, and I hope you heard it. I'll say it again. How about that? Last year, when Joe Biden did the debate, actually, he didn't even debate. He got up there and just crumbled. Literally just crumbled in front of the whole world's eyes. It was everything that we knew had been happening, and it happened in public. And when he did that, it was the end of his political career at that moment. That moment when he looked so lost and so confused and so incapable of finding the next thought that he even said something out of the blue that no one knew why he said it. We finally beat Medicare. We don't know what that means. What does that even mean? And this is, by the way, after spending a week at Camp David getting ready for it. Remember that? He was off duty for a week, resting up and getting ready, and that was the performance we got. That was the night his career ended. Thank God. I think that the other night at Trump's speech in the House chamber, the Democrats and their behaviors soon thereafter, I think that became the party-level version of what we saw in Biden's debate appearance. The party-level version of what we saw that was the demise of the career of Joe Biden. And part of that is you can just tell. So I got a piece here from The Blaze. It came out yesterday or the day before. Right now, a CBS poll, CBS, by the way, not like big Trump network, right? CBS did a poll. Nearly 70% of Americans felt hopeful after watching Trump's speech, and over half of them said they felt proud. So somehow or another, the Democrats' own behavior was overshadowed at the same time. Not overshadowed, but was paired up against something that 70% of Americans polled who watched it said they were so glad to have watched it, and that they felt more hopeful after watching it. What we're looking at right now is the Democrats, they don't know what to do. So what did they do in the wake of that? Well, let's see. What can we do? How about, I don't know. How about we do some corny videos? What in God's name? Who is their media consultant? I'm pretty sure if they hired somebody's nephew out of high school to come be the media consultant for the Democrat Party. Right before the speech, they had that total gaffe where they had 22 sitting Democrat senators all do the exact same video. And it's epically bad. Same script, hold the microphone the same way. It's almost as if they said, we want you to act exactly the same because it'll be really cool, to have everybody like standing the same way and saying the same words. It'll show unity.
And they even said bad words.
They did. They did. It had profanity in it, which how professional is that? I don't have virgin ears. I know that people cuss. Making an official speech where 22 senators all say something profane because they think that puts emphasis on their words. It was scripted.
100, yeah. It wasn't similar. It was literally identical.
It was scripted.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not like in the heat of moment somebody said something they're like, well, I should have said that, but you know what I mean. No, This was scripted. They all planned on saying it. But then they had the post-debate where they want to show how tough and ready and cool they are. And so, like, a group of Republican female congresswomen all did this awful video where they pretended like they were starting a, like, you know, Mortal Kombat type game. Choose your fighter. And they've got each one of them acting like they're boxing the air and they're cool. And it was so awful. It was to the point of, it was cringe. So that being said, the Democrats don't seem to have the ability to message anymore. I don't know who they're taking cues from, but they don't have anybody professional in their works. They have lost message. They have lost elections. They have now lost face. And what we're watching is basically the demise of the Democrat Party. Now, I'm not saying they'll never come back. Jimmy Carter, everybody thought that was the end of the Democrat Party for a while too, and then, you know, Obama came out. So they got their mojo back for a while. And when I say that, I don't mean I agree with what they did. I'm just saying that they had somebody at the helm. Right now, they got nobody at the helm. Nobody at the helm.
I think John Wall put it perfectly of we're winning right now, but they're not down and out quite yet.
That's right. It's too soon. You know, one lucky punch is all it takes to end a boxing match, right? You know, you get one suppression hold in the octagon. You just won when you've been down the whole time. I got one more thing about this that I think is very important, and this is official, and it's something that I think everybody needs to be aware of because it's not making a lot of headlines yet, but it's about to. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. I got a call on line 1, so I'll take that real quick. Scott from Huntsville. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Hey, good afternoon, sir. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Hey, you know, hindsight may be 20/20, but for me, I learned a lot over the last 4 years. It took the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for the Democrat Party to be exactly where they're at today. If Biden had not been elected, which I always believe that the Biden administration was Obama 2.0 anyway.
Sure.
But nevertheless, the reason why the Democrat Party is in the position that they're in now, which their head is below water, is because of the Biden administration. That 4 years, this country needed to see that. They needed to see the Democrat Party at their worst, and we recognized it, and we're changing things.
You know
Thank
what?
God it's being changed. We needed that.
I think.
I hate to say that, but
Scott, I think you're actually right, and I agree with that. I'll add one more piece to that. I think that as much as I hated having 4 years of Biden because of what it did to our country, I mean it's been impactful even on my family, but I'll say this: I think the Republicans now are more galvanized, and Trump is even a better potential president now than he would have been had he won back in 2020.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this 4 years was good for Trump, President Trump, because his first 4 years in office, he learned a lot. And in the next 4 years during the Biden administration, he honed himself. He learned what he needed to win this go around.
Yeah, Scott, great call.
And that's what. Yes, sir. Airborne. Have a great day.
Thank
God
you,
bless.
man. Airborne, take care. Yeah, he's right. And I hate that we had to have that 4 year interim because of what it did to the economy, what it did to morale, what it did to our military, what it did to our energy sector, what it did to everything, even what it did to our standing in the world stage, what it did for world peace. I mean, it's a high price to pay. But I meant what I said, and I think Scott was also right. The Democrat Party is now less of a force against us because of what they allowed themselves to do over 4 years. And at the same time, I believe the Republicans are more galvanized. Let's put it this way. I think conservatives are more galvanized. How about that? I think conservatives are finding their voice again. And by the way, you can be a Republican and not be very conservative. So it's a difference. But I think Trump 2.0 here is also a much stronger president than he would have been had he been elected in 2020. As much as I wish we hadn't done that for 4 years, I like the version of Trump that we have now. All right, let me do this. I gotta touch on something. So if you're not familiar, I did mention it briefly when John Wall was in the studio earlier today. There is a major fundraising organization that is what powers Democrat candidates. And when I say that, I don't mean like a little bit. This is the official fundraising entity for the entire Democratic apparatus. Now, on the Republican side, we have a big one too. It's called WinRed. And WinRed is where a lot of campaign donations are filtered through to help process. Because part of it is because there's a major accounting issue that goes along with this. You have to report things a certain way. You have to report them to the government a certain way. You have to follow state laws a certain way. So all these things matter. And having an entity that helps you with the flow is not just a money-making venture. It's also protection for the candidate. So when you get the money, you know it's been policed, if you will, and it's been reported, unless it's not. And that's what we're finding out with the Democrat version, which is called Act Blue. So WinRed for Republicans, Act Blue for the Democrats. Act Blue, I got a piece here. I pulled this off my Herald Review. I saw something this morning on social media. It's not making a lot of headlines yet because it's still being developed. But Act Blue is apparently facing some internal chaos right now. Multiple major staff members have all quit, like bailed. And the last member of the, like 7 of their directors just left in the last week. And the last member of the general counsel's office, in other words, the legal department for Act Blue, just quit. And they've got nobody at the helm right now. And a large part of that is because what we're finding is the Treasury Department has been finding hundreds of transactions linked to Act Blue that have been flagged by banks. Got this piece off the New York Post, and this is a few months old. We were beginning to see trouble in the near term on the election. They were finding that there were so many dummy accounts that were, so-called. I've seen the video of a guy who went door to door on people who allegedly gave to the Democrat Party 50 times. And they would answer the door and go, "I've only given once." Well, you know what that means? Somebody took the information and used them as a cover to provide multiple other donations so that it wouldn't be reported who gave it. We're also finding that it may well have been that the Democrat Party was taking foreign donations. How do we know that? Because there's a means by which they can turn off credit card payments from foreign countries, and they didn't do that until late last year. In other words, there's no telling how many credit card and gift card donations they took over time that were laundered through Act Blue to candidates on the Democrat Party side that came from foreign entities, and that is a violation of the law. I think what we're looking at right now, we also heard, by the way, this is one more piece that I'll add, one of the last senior members to leave the Act Blue office sent an email out apparently to members of the staff and to remind them that there are whistleblower laws that would protect them if they need it. What is that? What does that tell you? If you're reminding people, don't forget, we got whistleblower laws. You're protected by those. What in God's name? Well, all said and done, Act Blue raised more than $2.2 billion. $2.2 billion for Democrat candidates and causes just during the 2021-22 election cycle, right before the 22 midterms. They helped Vice President Kamala Harris raise as much as $46.7 million just for her campaign in the last go-round. And that took place in just hours. Well, the bottom line is Treasury, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and the FBI are all briefing Congress on their findings, and it does not look good for Act Blue. And if it was okay, you wouldn't see the staff quitting and leaving like the rats are jumping ship. So that's the Democrat Party's financial apparatus. And when you take that into account with the fact that they have no national party leadership, and when they have no way of messaging, and when they seem to have no professional decorum, and when it seems like they have no shame, and now you add to the fact that they may have no money, I think we're watching a self-inflicted complete demolition of the Democratic apparatus. And it's amazing to watch. And it's all self-inflicted. That's what's it's all self-inflicted. Every bit of this is avoidable. My gosh. Stand for what you stand for without being an idiot. How about that? Take me to a break, JP. Last break of the day on a Friday afternoon. I'll come back and get some of those text messages. You guys stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, we're back from the break. I got a few text messages. I'll be watching for the grades from John from Huntsville shortly. But let me go to the phones because I see Wolverine Dan's on the line. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Phil, how we doing today?
We are good, man. How you doing?
Very well. You know, you're describing what's going on with the Democratic Party very well.
Oh, thank you.
And you know something, the sad thing is this, is they think that we still don't know what we're doing and we're very naive. We're none of that. And they're going through what they're doing and treating us like we still don't know anything or they could pull the wool over our eyes. And that's not the case, Phil. And also, shame on them for even attempting it and trying that, because we're all Americans. We all live in the same country, Phil. You know that. We all can get along and live with each other. But they're so far left and so it's mean-spirited as far as I'm concerned. That's not being a true Christian or an American. You're supposed to love your fellow man.
Absolutely. And it wouldn't have been hard to disagree with every policy position that night and still celebrate the kid or the kids actually who were being honored.
That was just and that wasn't scripted. That kid hugged that Secret Service agent that helped save our president. That was true. That was sincere. And if you sit on your hands like that, I don't know. Again, you walk in as a poor representative of whatever district, making X amount of dollars a year, and you end up by leaving a multi-millionaire. Tell me how that happens. It just doesn't happen with just your one salary. It's called kickbacks.
No, I agree, man. Well, we will watch. See you, brother. Have a great weekend, all right?
You too. See you.
Hey, by the way, I got to mention, I understand from Jeff from Indiana that his wife, Carolyn's doing better, just resting. And so we're really glad to hear it. And Jeffro, tell the lovely Carolyn that we said hello, and she is going to remain in our prayers. And you get back on the road as quick as you can. Grades are in. John from Huntsville says JP gets an A++ for his amazing sound effect skills and his decent sports commentary. Decent. He called it decent.
Decent.
His decent sports commentary, which means today's winner is obviously the magnificent Phil Williams. Thank you so much. I feel funny reading that out, but with an A++ for putting on one of his best performances ever. Wow. Congratulations, by the way. No matter how good JP's off-the-bench performance is tomorrow, I promise you I will not include that in JP's Rightside Radio score on Monday.
At least it's fair.
Yeah. Just to remind you guys, JP's on the ump on Saturday mornings. Got the show Off the Bench for Sports Talk on Saturday mornings, 9 to 11. So watch him on that. And then podcasts keep coming out here at Rightside Media. It's what we do, man. We're a conservative content generating machine. So I suspect we'll have another round of the the controversial mom coming out on Sunday. JP's got his podcast called Out of Right Field. It comes out on Monday. I've got another version of The Right Philosophy. There should be one coming out today from Birdman, Right Click. And then we look for another Liberty Minute from former Navy SEAL Jared Hudson. All that to say, we love what we do, and we do it because of y'all. There's no other reason to do this. It's because we have an amazing audience and we know it, and you guys make it all worthwhile. So you guys have an amazing weekend. And do not forget, I say it every time, but it's true. There's more of us than there are of them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you Monday.